What you guys doing? Look at this. Pig face. Pig face. How are you guys doing? Huh?
I have a drink of your Coke, Dad.
I asked you a question.
Can I have a drink of your Coke, Dad?
I said, how are you doing?
Good. Can I have a drink of your Coke, please?
If yours is all gone.
Huh?
Only if yours is all gone.
Mine's already been drinking on and already fell down.
Okay. Go ahead then. How many raisins do you have left with?
Two.
And how old are you? Where'd you go yesterday?
I go to the beach today.
What did Kyle do yesterday? What kind of game did he play?
Kyle played the oil.
Guess the girl's name.
Glamour?
Hey, Mom, do you know which team I played?
No, you couldn't have thrown the bathing suit thing away.
You know what team I played yesterday, Mom?
Orioles. The team we were last year. You were an Oriole last year, remember?
And they were orange.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's the same team.
Yeah. Well, not the same team.
Hey, right in the middle. Your pitcher.
A little bit. Smile. Here we go, buddy. Look at me. Smile. Don't move. And hold it. Next. Go ahead, buddy. Who's that?
Okay. Everybody needs to know that you're sick and stuff, too. Okay? Okay, let's read another chapter. A week later, it seemed like everything was back to normal, but Brian could sense that under the surface things had changed. One evening, Uncle Joe and Kapuna went to a meeting of the farmers. When they came home, they were both very upset. Not only, what's upset mean?
Means you're mad.
Not only did Uncle Alfredo decide to sell his land, but he had convinced several more families to do the same. What does convinced mean? If he convinced several more families to do the same, what does that mean?
What? Family?
Convinced?
Family.
Oh, it's families? No, but it's a good guess. Uncle Joe was angry. What's the matter with them? How can they give up so easily? They're afraid, Uncle Mary said. Nothing like this has ever happened to them. They feel helpless. What does helpless mean?
Scared.
But where will they go? Uncle Joe said. Into the city? To live on crowded streets? To send their children to crowded schools? What does crowded mean?
Lots.
I don't suppose all of them will move to the city, Uncle Mary said. Some of the neighbors are talking about moving to Kalawa. It's not a bad little town, Joe. Uncle Joe and Kapuna stared at her in surprise. Times change, Auntie Mary said. Farming isn't the only way to make a living. What's a living?
Live. That means you'll stay alive.
Oh, okay. And what does that mean, said Uncle Joe? Only that moving to Kalawa might not be so bad. If we lived in town, we'd be closer to the schools and beach. I wouldn't have to drive so far to work. And what would I do, Uncle Joe said angrily? Sit all day in the shade and twiddle my fingers? What's twiddle?
Do this.
Do it again? Do that? Oh, okay. Okay. There are plenty of jobs in Kalawa. You're good with your hands, Joe. You like working with machinery as much as plants. You're good at building things. What's machinery?
A machine.
You, Kapuna looked furious. Are you suggesting that we sell our farm, too? No, Auntie Mary said. I'm just saying that farming isn't the only way of life. She got up and walked out of the room. Uncle Joe went after her, but Kapuna slumped back in his chair. What's slumped?
Quietly.
Brian felt terrible about what was happening in the valley. In the short time he'd been there, he'd begun to feel like part of the family. He didn't want to see the Nakoa's way of life destroyed. What's destroyed?
Dead.
But he didn't know what he could do to help. No one knew what to do. That night Brian woke up suddenly. At first he couldn't imagine what had disturbed him. In fact, he was rather annoyed. Do you know what annoyed means?
Not listening.
He'd been having a good dream and wanted to get back to it. He closed his eyes, trying to relax, hoping he'd fall asleep and step right back into the dream. Outside he heard the crickets. What's a cricket?
Something that jumps around making a sound.
They made a comfortable lulling sound, and Brian began to drift to sleep. And then Brian heard something that made him sit up in bed. Drums, a slow, dull thudding in the distance. Chanting of voices, low and monotonous. Do you know what monotonous means?
Slow.
Slow? Drums and chanting coming closer. Brian slid out of bed and knelt beside Alani's cot. He shook his friend roughly. Wake up, Alani. Go away, Alani murmured sleepily. He didn't even open his eyes. Alani, his friend finally blinked and frowned. What's the matter? He muttered. What's muttered?
Dad.
Listen. For a moment, Alani just blinked. Then he gasped when he heard the ghostly marchers. Is that? Yeah, Brian whispered. Look, he pointed toward the screen. Out of the darkness, coming from the old trail and moving towards the Nakau farm, was a ghostly line of figures. What are figures?
Little things that walk at night.
Figures that glowed with an eerie, whitish-green light. Do you mind if I ask you what some of these words are?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure myself.
Okay.
Quick, hide, Alani. Alani didn't wait to see if Brian would hear his warning. He dived under the covers, making a small shivering lump in the middle of the bed. What's shivering?
Like wiggling.
Brian crawled back into his own bed, pulling the covers over his head, and lay as still as possible, listening to the dull, inconsistent thudding of the drums. Then, little by little, the sounds began to fade. When the night was silent again, Brian pushed the covers away. He sat up very cautiously. What's cautiously?
Good.
It felt good to breathe in the cool, sweet air instead of the hot, stuffy air under the covers. Alani heard Brian move, and he too sat up and took a deep breath. Are they gone? Alani whispered. It seems like it, Brian whispered back. For a moment both boys waited, listening, tensed, to dive under the covers again, but all they heard were the crickets. Alani scrambled out of bed. Come on, he said. Where are you going? To see if my family is okay. Brian went with Lanny. They woke up Annie Marie and Uncle Joe, then Kapuna, then Keone and Maylie. Everyone was fine, although Keone was annoyed at being awoken up in the middle of the night. Uncle Joe went to the lanai and peered out into the darkness. I don't see anything, he said. They were there, Dad, walking right by our house. They looked just like the Uncle Alfredo said. They were dressed like the ancient Hawaiians, and, he gulped, they looked awful, like rotting corpses. What's a corpse?
Scary.
He shuddered, and so did Brian. It was a good description. What's a description?
Talk.
Kinda. When you describe something, when you talk about it. Uncle Joe looked at his son, and one eyebrow went up. Are you sure you haven't been watching too many horror movies, Alani? Or maybe you ate too much for dinner and had a bad dream as a result. Dad, we both saw them. Brian and I couldn't have had the same dream at the same time. Uncle Joe looked through the screen again. Then he shrugged. What shrugged?
Man.
Everything's mad. No, that's when you shrug, when you go like this with your shoulders. You do it. Right. Well, I don't know what to say, son. I didn't hear a thing. Neither did your mother. She would have woken me up if she had. Kapuna, didn't you hear anything? Maylie, Keone? Alani looked from one to the other. They all shook their heads. You do believe us, don't you? Brian asked. No one said anything. Uncle Joe sounded tired. Let's all go back to bed. It will be dawn soon and time to get up. I'd like to get some more sleep. Kapuna, you believe us, don't you? Alani said. The grandfather sighed. I don't know what to think, Alani. What does sighed mean?
Sad.
No, that's when you go. That's what sighed means. I was sound asleep till you woke me up. But don't forget, my bedroom is on the other side of the house. So are the others. You boys are closer. Still, Brian and Alani waited tensely. Kapuna shook his head slowly. He looked bewildered. Do you know what bewildered means?
Frightened.
I was sure Alani and the others were just talking nonsense, he muttered. You know what nonsense is?
That means no way.
Now, I don't know. I just don't know. We aren't going to settle this by standing here, Uncle Joe said. He yawned. What's yawned?
No, like this.
Okay. We'll talk about it in the morning. The others shuffled back to their rooms. You know what shuffled means?
Run.
Maylie was the last to go. Just before she left, she turned to Brian. I believe you, she said. He saw how afraid she was, and suddenly he began to have doubts. What's a doubt?
Like this.
Had Alani and he somehow imagined the whole thing? Had they frightened Maylie for no reason? For a long time after everyone went back to bed, Brian lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling. None of this seemed real. It was like a terrible dream. What was going on in Wailea Valley? Why was it being threatened? He was again overcome by the feeling of helplessness, by that feeling of helplessness. What's helplessness again?
Happy.
No, that's when you're sad. Brian overslept. When he woke up, the sun was already riding high over the horizon. What's horizon?
The trees.
The family was up for the first time since Brian had arrived. They were quiet and subdued. What's wrong, Auntie Marie? Brian said with her eyes were red, and he knew she'd been crying. The garden, Uncle Joe choked on the rest of his words. What's choked? Brian stared at the adults, waiting for Uncle Joe to finish. What's adult?
Somebody that's big like you.
Half of the garden is destroyed, Auntie Marie said bitterly. Beautiful plants, all brown today, all dead, just as if they had been killed by a plague. You know what a plague is?
Meteorite.
A what?
A meteorite.
A meteorite? Oh, okay. Maylie began to whimper.
So I want to get out. I want to go up.
I wouldn't want to get done with the thing, chapter here. What's whimper? What's whimper mean?
That means something that you're surprised.
She ran to her mother. She ran to her mother and buried her face against Auntie Marie's arm. Mrs. Nicola put her other arm around the little girl to comfort her. Kapuna, Alana said, you told us the night marchers don't do things like that. I know what my grandfather told me about the Hawakai pool, he whispered hoarsely. What's hoarsely?
Like this, like you can't talk that good. You
Okay.
sound like a horse.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm talking.
Okay.
I'm hoarse.
Because you're sick? Among all the stories I heard, none were like this. Auntie Mary sank into a chair, pulling Maylie into her lap. Well, I think it's time we talk about our future here in the valley. What's valley? What's a valley?
It's a place where you live. I mean, it's a place where you live alone
Where you live alone?
with your family.
You mean there's no other neighbors?
Uh-uh.
Okay. We've lost a lot in one night. Joe, we were counting on those crops to bring us the money we needed. My salary won't cover our expenses. Do you know what salary is?
It's something that you eat.
Something you eat? Yeah, kind of like that. Salary. How can we go on? You know what our expenses are? What are our, you know what expenses are?
That means filled with money.
Filled with money? Uncle Joe shook his head. I don't know, Mary. Maybe Alfredo was right, Uncle Mary. Uncle Mary went on. We have to consider it, Joe. What's consider?
Means I don't know.
It means I don't know or you don't know.
I don't.
You don't know? Okay. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Uncle Joe shook his head. We have to think about... She choked on her words, but she made herself go on. about leaving the valley. Brian could hardly believe what he was hearing. Worse, Uncle Joe didn't try to argue with his wife. Instead, he nodded. Maybe you're right. What's instead mean?
I mean something else.
Brian looked at Kapuna to see how he would react. What's react mean?
They have to act that way.
But the old man seemed to be shriveling up inside like the ruined plants in the garden. Brian went to Lanai to look out through the screen door. From where he was standing, he could only see the edge of the garden. He wanted to see it all. He opened the door quietly, tiptoed down the steps, and walked slowly toward the garden. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The chickens scratched and cackled. Hoopo lay with his head on his paws, his tail flicking at small flies. A breeze played over the grass and bushes. Auntie Marie's description had not really prepared Brian for the horror of the garden. Yesterday's bright, new green lettuces were now brown and limp. Stalks of green onions were lying in their rows like fallen soldiers. What's a soldier?
Somebody who shoots. Diamond.
And what's a general?
Somebody who's the boss of the army.
The green foliage of healthy tomato plants was now curled and withered. Brian swallowed hard. He felt as if he was about to cry. It made no sense. How often had he heard Kapuna say those words? It made no sense. The night marchers marched to places they had known in life, to fishing places, to sacred places. They marched to greet a new spirit to their ranks. They marched to the sites of old battles. What's a spirit?
Somebody who died and that's invisible.
Died and what?
And that's invisible.
Oh, okay. They followed the old trail that they had in life with a destination and a purpose that did not include destroying a way of life for their descendants. What's a descendant? I'm sorry. What's an ancestor?
Something that's scary?
No, before you said what an ancestor was. That did not include destroying a way of life for their ancestors. Remember what you said?
Oh yeah, that's your and that's your sister.
Oh, right, okay. Then out of the corner of his eye, Brian saw something that made him want a closer look. He moved right up to the fence and looked through the wire. There, in the soft, well-turned soil, was something that surprised him. A human footprint. What's a human?
Somebody who's alive.
A footprint of a bare foot. And it was large enough to have been made by a man. That was strange, Brian thought. All the Nakoas wore shoes when they worked in the garden. Keone wore tennis shoes, Uncle Joe wore boots, and Kapuna wore rubber thongs that he called slippers. Brian also knew that in Hawaii, people always removed their outdoor shoes before entering a house. This was a custom that had been introduced by the Japanese when they first immigrated to Hawaii. Immigrated, that's a big word. You know what immigrated means?
Battle.
Battle? It was a custom that made good sense, too. It kept the floors and rugs of the household much cleaner. No one in the Nakoa household, nor anyone in the valley, would go barefoot in the garden. So why was this large footprint of a bare foot embedded in the earth? You know what embedded means?
Huge in the earth.
Curious now, Brian went into the garden. What's curious?
I was kind of surprised.
But as he did, he noticed that the gate was already standing open. The gate was always kept shut. No one wanted Hoopo or any of the chickens to get into the garden by accident. The plants were too precious. What's precious?
Cool. I mean nice.
Brian stared at the open gate. Maybe one of the adults had left it open this morning. Maybe in their shock at seeing the ruined plants, they had forgotten to close it. This was possible, but Brian doubted it. He walked carefully between the rows of vegetables. He found more footprints and tried to imagine ghostly figures moving up and down the rows of plants. passing a hand over the healthy vegetables and blighting them as if by magic. Then he shook his head. The night marchers would not have destroyed the plants, nor would they have needed to open a gate, nor would they have left footprints. They were ghosts, spirits. And Kapuna had said they always seemed to walk above the ground. But these footprints were all too real. Some human had left them there. Brian felt a surge of anger. Someone, not something, was trying to destroy this valley. Huh?
I don't destroy.
What?
Kill.
That's all we're going to read today. So what do you think is going on? What did Brian discover?
Footprints.
Right, but what does he think?
He thinks that the night watchers made footprints.
Are the night watchers people or ghosts?
Ghosts. They're not night watches. They're night marchers.
Yeah, but he said that he found footprints that would belong to a man. So how could that be a spirit?
Oh, they could have drew. They could have took something and drew it on
The spirit could have drew it on there? Huh, I hadn't thought of that. Okay. All right,
them. Maybe you'll read more books.
let's go talk to Mommy.
But I don't want to do it.
Why?
I don't want her to see my eyes. Don't tell. My cookies. I'm gonna have some too.
No, he's just gonna have some.
What kind?
Kind with the red. Kind with the red stuff.
Mommy. Army.
I have a feeling that we're gonna have problems with wanting all these clothes and stuff all the time, and once we shop.
We better intervene pretty quick.
What am I gonna do, honey? It's just something she likes. I'm gonna be-
You think you're ready to sing Shoop this morning?
Shoop, 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 shoop-a-dee doo, 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 shoop-a-dee doo, 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 shoop-a-dee doo, doo-dee doo, doo, doo.
It's a good transition.
The segue. Very good.
I see. I want it.
Listen, listen.
It's popping.
Is it talking?
No, it's popping.
Maybe it's singing Shoop too.
No, it's not. It's popping.
Mommy put some sugar on it. Bye, you.
Mommy, this tastes like popcorn. And this tastes like dough.
Diz.
So you don't know who was on the phone?
No. I called back and Bruno was already on the line with him.
With Paul?
How's it going, Blizzes? It's not exactly your typical music box type of jam. Yay! You're going very much faster. Wave to the camera, Blizzes. Blow me a kiss.
what's your horsey's name? Billy? Pelly. Interesting. Well, this is mine and your day out together. Are we having fun together? Huh? How about wave to Daddy? Keep going, Alley Cat. Okay, Alley Cat. Woo! That was fun.
No, Jessica. They all went on and
Go backwards, Alex. One for the bunny.
Take your shoes off, man.
Notice coming out? Huh? Should be all right. It's okay. Come on. Are we going up higher yet? Here we go. Bound and bound and bound we go. Over the river. Sing, voices.
Again? Okay, come back later, okay? Okay.
What's this ride, Alex?
This ride goes faster.
Is this the teacup ride? And what's that ride right there?
Say hi to Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
And how about Mimo?
Hi, Mimo.
And how about Oma?
Hi, Oma.
And how about Opa? Of sickness. Viral.
Oh, yeah. Woo! You're gonna dance for Dad. Come on.
Keep
Ready?
going, Dancy Dancy.
Good.
The figure 8.
Show Daddy. Look at it. Now twirl it in a circle. Circle. Yeah, there we go. Now swing it around in a circle. No, the right one. The right one.
All right.
Good. Now circle. Go ahead. Circle.
Big circles.
Big circle. Big one. Good girl. Now shake your hips. Good girl.
Now take a bow.
You know how to twist people? Know how to do that? Do that. Ready? What? Stand like me. Stand like that. Now put one foot in the back of you. Now you bend.
Oh, yes. Very nice.
Now put your foot in back of you. Put it back of you. Ready? Back, and now kneel down. And then you lift up your strap. Kneel. Come on. I go like this. And back. Right? There we go. Good girl. See?
Very good.